AHL Man of the Year, 500 pro fights in his career. Got the record for most ice fights in a season. He fought the sheriff, lucky we filmed the pod today. You listening tomorrow, the heavyweight champ, yeah, Sean McMahon.
Welcome everybody to an exclusive edition of The Sheriff. Boy, oh boy, do I ever have a treat for you guys. Now, ladies and gentlemen, today's going to be a little bit of a different show. Things may get a little bit emotional, but they're going to be exciting, and we're going to keep it very, very happy. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a guest today that had a huge impact on me growing up. Starting at 13 years old as my coach from Pee Wee, all the way to today's date today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls all over the world, I would like to introduce to you my guest tonight. He hails from Toronto, Ontario. At 5'9", 185, he is a middleweight. He has been a huge part of the University of Michigan Wolverines. He was my coach in Pee Wee and participated in the International Quebec Pee Wee Tournament. He is a certified mental performance coach, and he is the all-time winningest coach in GTHL history. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Kerry Durant. How are you doing, brother?
Awesome, Sean.
We definitely clap for each other.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, first, I was super excited to be here. What an opportunity to come downtown Toronto and get to see how the city's changed a little bit. Brought some of my friends along with me. I see. Well, first off, your mom's here, so that's like epic for me.
Yes,
your mom,
yes.
right?
I gotta give a clap.
Yeah.
Everybody that showed up. He's winning, Sheila.
One of the most exciting jobs I ever had, being the bartender at your mother's wedding, right? And then, I actually brought a great friend of mine and his son, Darren Price and Dayton Price, who I think you're eventually going to meet on this show. Just an unbelievable story about Dayton, and he's going to tell his story in the future. And my buddy Darren, who coached me at the Mississauga Rebels, also, I think, threw you out of a couple of games in the OHL.
Possibly. We're going to talk about that later, for sure.
All right.
But yeah, no, I'm very happy to see all the people showing up. We got a full packed house here at Bottom Line. We have the yellow tape to try to keep people back. They're trying to get in the area. We're containing them. We're here to have a good time. I'm really looking forward to tonight's show, buddy.
Absolutely. And you know what? I just want to say, because I know the owner, Wayne Cowley, just want to say thanks very much for the venue. Wayne's such a great guy. I've known him a little while. He's friends with a great friend of mine, John Pacheco. Been to the Bottom Line so many times. Classy place, great food, fun place to have a drink and watch a hockey game if you're not actually lucky enough to have tickets to go to the Leaf game.
Absolutely, and it's funny that you use the word classy, because Bottom Line is Toronto's classiest sports bar.
Absolutely.
Yes. So now, Kerry, I'm a big believer in starting from the beginnings. Now, you're a reoccurring guest on the Sheriff podcast, and we got into a lot of things in our first show, but we didn't really get to talk about the beginnings that much. So I'd really like to get into it. If you could tell the audience and listeners where you grew up, where you were born, so on and so forth.
Well, like Sean said, I'm originally from East York, Ontario, and after my short playing career, if you want to call it that, for some reason I found myself in Parkdale coaching hockey and actually breaking into kids' garages because their parents wouldn't let them play. And that was the MTHL back then, and it really pole vaulted me into wanting to be a hockey coach and being a part of minor hockey.
Yes, and Kerry, I'll tell you one thing, like, when people go into hockey arenas, people come into the arena, they observe, but there's a lot of people that have a really like big stay in the arenas. And I would say that you, my friend, out of all the coaches, out of all the parents, I remember so many things about you from my younger days. You stand out of the crowd, and you're definitely a big character. And that's the reason why we got you on tonight's show. So I wanted to get right into the certified mental performance coach stuff right away, Kerry. Now, saying that, culture in hockey needs to change.
Absolutely, it does.
It is not very good right now. that's the word that I chose to use. 2 weeks ago, I had an episode with Luke Sellers, and we were also talking about the culture in hockey. We're launching a program called Leaders in Training, where it holds everyone on the team accountable and makes them all even. Now, that's a big change from how it was 25 years ago, because this right here, my friend, money and power
for sure
seem to be controlling the minor hockey. What's your opinion on that?
Well, first off, about the mental performance coaching certification program, I have two guys to thank about that. I mean, really, Brian Kane has been the big driver for me. His leadership and just the program that he's put together over the last couple of decades. Brian's a big baseball guy. He lives in Arizona. And then my buddy Drake Davis, who is Brian's right-hand man. Drake is like the king of all kings. I love the guy. And just for the mental performance part, it's actually changed a lot about the way I think as a coach and the way culture should be. I know a lot of people they say the word win, and it's what's important now. It's not about the actual win. Like you say, all-time winningest coach. I'll tell you where I actually am the all-time winningest person. It's of all the relationships that I've built with people. It's not about the wins and losses. I mean, I remember a lot. The players that played for me will remember a lot. But really, it's about the people that I've met along the way. And look at us. Years later, you were 12, 13 years old. I'm 56 years old now, and we're standing here together.
That's right.
Which is
cool stuff,
which is unbelievable. We just had Mark Coffey stop by,
Yeah.
who was here, and he played for me when he was 7.
Yeah.
So now it's really bizarre for me because now you guys are all getting married, you all have kids and that. But it just shows that this is the biggest part about coaching, is that your relationships that you have with people.
For sure. Now, with Mr. Coffey, was that the Wexford Raiders, EastEnders?
That was the EastEnders and the Wexford Raiders that we played at. They had that great underage program that I came up through that Wexford had started, and I can't say enough about the EastEnders. What a great organization they were too. They gave me the opportunity then to go into Wexford, where then again we built that big Pee Wee team. I came and recruited you to Don Mills, and going back, and then obviously it was all over from there, going to the World Pee Wee Championships. When you talk about remembering stuff, not so much the wins, just that tournament for us. I'll never forget that, after we had gotten knocked out of the tournament, I said to the guys, I said, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're playing in the mall.
Yes.
In Quebec. And
with the roller coasters.
The roller coasters are going by. I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go get on the roller coaster, and every time I go over top of the bench, I'm going to yell change, and you guys have to change. And so the guys are looking up at the roller coaster watching me going by, and it was pretty funny. But what a great team that was,
Yes.
and a bunch of great kids, and still talk to Nathan Harrington, and still talk to a couple of other.
Wow, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
I know.
Shout out to Nathan Harrington.
Right? He's
really nice guy.
I believe he runs Snipe Academy in Cambridge. He's doing real well. I believe he came a firefighter. Just another great kid off the team.
Yeah, and it's like these names that we're mentioning. They were also big parts of my journey. I remember Nathan Harrington. Was he ever a big kid when we were young?
Yeah.
You're saying I was big. I think Harrington might have been a little bit bigger. And, he was like a left-handed shot Eric Lindros.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yeah,
So,
he was a big boy, that's for sure. And still, even back then in those days, we were still moving kids in from outside the city to play in the GTHL.
Oh, yeah.
And that brings me to something about the culture of Toronto. I think everyone thinks you have to move to Toronto to become a hockey player. Definitely not true. I think that both the OMHA and the GTHL have something good to offer.
Yes.
And I think really is like your mother did. She after unfortunately Mr. Robeson left Don Mills, she was looking for that coach that said, hey, can you take care of my son? Is my son going to be okay with you? And I think that's why your mother, Sheila, she realized when I came to SAT in your living room and flipped through that booklet and talked to you about recruiting you, your mother felt that I was the guy to be able to help guide you. And lo and behold, we end up, going to the draft together. And I remember, and I have to tell this story because my phone rang and I'm like, hello? Yeah, it's Sean. What's up, Sean? Oh, man, I don't know what to do. I go, what do you mean you don't know what to do? They just called me up to the NHL. I'm going to get called up. He says, who should I fight? Should I fight Domi or
Domi,
Belak, and them guys?
No, there was a couple guys to choose from there.
Yeah, but it was an exciting time because you had always said that you wanted to play in the NHL, and every kid tells me that that's my goal. And when that goal actually becomes a reality, that's when it really gets exciting.
Absolutely. And like Kerry, like just to add to this talking point, I like to identify players with coaches.
Yes.
And like I was saying in the intro, you know, you were my coach, you became my mentor, and you became a great example for me. And like, I wanted to give a couple examples about what I mean. So like, for example, we all know who Eric Lindros is. I mentioned him about 2 minutes ago, the Big E.
Yep.
So now when I think of Eric Lindros, I'm thinking of Dan Cameron.
Yes,
okay?
absolutely.
They were thick as thieves, those two. I know that Dan did some privates with Eric. I'm pretty sure Henry Carr, you know,
played a little bit of a role in that.
Yeah, that was the school. And yeah, so when I think of Eric Lindros, I'm thinking of Dan Cameron. One of our favorite players of all time, Mike Camilleri.
Yes,
you know, Mr.
absolutely.
Bramley Blues. I think of Lindsey Hofford.
Yes.
Right? I think of Lindsey Hofford.
Yeah.
Lindsey had a big part of Mike's progress. You know, even after he went to Michigan, I know that you guys were still really connected with Mike. And I agree with you, man. Like, I was listening to our show that we did about a year ago, and I believe that Mike Camilleri is the best player to ever come out of the GTHL. He's the most skilled guy in the 1982 age group by far. And wanted to give a big shout out to Big Mike Camilleri,
yes,
and to Lindsey Hofford as well. But ladies and gentlemen, those two examples, when I think of who that would be for me, it's Mr. Kerry Durant. Mr. Kerry Durant is for Sean McMorrow, just like the Big E, and just like Camilleri with Lindsey Hofford. So I wanted to thank you, buddy.
That's a pretty big, obviously, honor, right?
Definitely clap for that.
I think most coaches are in it for the right reason.
Yeah.
And this is where I get back to the culture in all the minor hockey leagues around Ontario. I think most people are in it for the right reason. Unfortunately, we've gone too far one way where the money's got involved, and now all of a sudden the expectations have gotten bigger from every parent.
Yes.
And I think what people forget about is the process. Speaking about mental performance, one of the biggest things, one of the 10 pillars is the process over the outcome. Yep. What is that process like, and how do you go through it? You know, if you talk to most guys like myself who've been around for 38, 39 years coaching, someone asked me one day, you know, what'd you think about those last 38, 39 years? And I said, I have to be honest with you. I said, truthfully, I think I missed some of it. I was so busy and so wrapped up in the wins and trying to get guys drafted, trying to get them to school, that I actually look back at it now and I wish I would have slowed down a little bit and and thought, hey, you know, it's like a playing career. You know, you keep playing night after night, and then all of a sudden you're retired. And then you go, where did all that time go?
Yes.
So if I could give any advice to any young coaches is take it slow, enjoy it, and your relationships with people. One thing I've learned from Brian is that relationships are not transactional. They're transformational. And that's what our relationship is. It was never about transaction. It was never about how much money anybody had. It was about caring about each other. And I think when coaches care about their athletes, I think you always get I always got the benefit of the doubt from everybody. And I'll say this about Mike Camilleri, because I don't want to rip. Remember Craig?
Yes.
Their coach at the Red Wings. I don't want to take anything, because that guy was a good coach. He did a lot for Michael too, and he really built the foundation. But he really cared about Michael, because you remember the time the Wexford Raiders played the Toronto Red Wings at Scarborough Arena, and we beat them, and we thought we were winning.
Gardens.
Yeah, we were winning everything. And Craig Clark Mike didn't have a great game, and Craig Clark I think he maybe even give him a little bit of a wash in the face and was pointing at him. And Leo and Ruth weren't there that day, and then the whole league was like, Camilleri's leaving the Red Wings and that. And, you know, God bless Leo and Ruth. I mean, they are probably some of the best hockey parents I've ever met. Always stuck with the Red Wings, never changed. And you look at kids these days, one thing I can say about kids these days, some of them have 9 different jackets. So they'll never get cold in the wintertime.
Very, very true. Now, going back to that day, Kerry, it's funny because I actually remember it pretty clear. I believe we won 4-2.
4-2 we did.
I remember, and this is another shout out, I remember Joey Pitsalis scored. Joey Pitsalis.
Now there's another name.
And when Pitsalis scored, man, that was we were on fire. Like, we were in the zone, and there was no turning back.
Yes.
It was at Scarborough Gardens, and I think it was the first game that the Toronto Red Wings had lost.
Had lost,
that
yeah.
season.
And probably in a couple of years because they were so good.
They were very, very good.
And the great thing about it was that they had to come to Scarborough because I know people really didn't want to go to Chesswood, but no one in this planet wanted to go to Scarborough Gardens and play us because everyone thought it was the dungeon, right? But for us, it was the best rink.
I loved playing at Scarborough Gardens. There's some Al Sinclair skates that actually still exist at the Scarborough Gardens, Don Montgomery, etc. So yeah, man, that brings back a lot of great memories. I really appreciate you bringing some of that stuff up. So now, getting into the nitty gritty here, there's one talking point that I really wanted the audience and listeners to hear about is the fact that mental performance coaches are going to become a huge thing in sports. Like, Kerry, I hope you're prepared, man. Your schedule is about to start getting really filled.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
I believe that this is a change that has come with society. Society has changed. A lot of things have changed. From fighting in hockey to this to that. I always use the example of back in the day, 30 years ago. Let's say we saw a parent kind of smack his kid after a game. We wouldn't like it, but we wouldn't really think too much of it. Today's world, if that were to happen,
oh, you can't do that anymore.
CIS is getting called in, and that dad's probably spending the night in jail.
Yeah.
So it's like night and day. So with the fighting in hockey, you can't be showing on the 24-hour news cycle, the sports news cycle, brawls and guys getting uppercutted and every 10 minutes. Like you can't do that anymore. The world's a very sensitive place.
Absolutely.
Now, coming with that, we need to be coached in this new world. And that's where I think your value is through the roof.
Yeah.
So, are you ready for all this work?
I'm definitely ready, and I think and this is where my mindset is now. And just to give you a little bit of background on that, so back November 2022, I'm diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Yes.
And to me, it was a big blow to me because it's the next guy that's going to get it. It's not you. And throughout that time, I was coaching. And the team that I was coaching, I was working on mental performance. And then more or less, I realized even more how much mental performance meant to me as a person because now I was going to go through this adversity in my life. And I have to give one shout out, one big clap to my lovely spouse, Lori. She is... Lori took care of me through this whole thing. She was an absolute warrior and a champion, and I so appreciate her. The mental performance really kicked in for me, and then I was introduced to Brian Kane, met Drake Davis, and all of a sudden now I'm a certified mental performance coach. You said it at the top of the show. The biggest problem in society today is no one wants to be held accountable for what they do.
Yes.
No one wants their kid to be held accountable.
Yeah. Excuses.
And when you do, they think that they're going to actually fake their way through. And the problem is everybody focuses on that long-term goal of making the NHL. You talk to any kid today, any kid I've interviewed, 10, 11, 12, 13, I ask them, do you know what the meaning of adversity is? They have no idea what it is. They've never had a goldfish flush down their toilet. They've never had their dog die. They've never been to a funeral. And all of a sudden, when you take ice time away from, all of a sudden, it's a devastation for everybody. So holding kids accountable is the key, and also giving them some leadership. One thing I get really tired of hearing, all these coaches that keep saying, those kids are mentally weak. Kids are not mentally weak. They're just mentally not trained to have the coping skills to deal with that adversity. And I think us coaches are hugely responsible for what's going on today. I think Hockey Canada, the GTHL, the OMHA, we're all missing the boat because we're working basically 6 feet below the ears. We're not working 6 inches between them. And I like that. What I don't get is that, so we're going to teach kids how to take wrist shots, snap shots. We'll work on that. We'll teach them how to have big muscles like you. Yeah. But the problem is, how many kids have we seen at tryouts? They go out on the ice, they skate around, and they have no idea how to play the game. They have no idea how to cope with anybody. Have they been cut before? Is there a bad call? Do they understand their triggers? Do they understand what they have to do to be able to help themselves? And so that's why I became a mental performance coach, because I feel that's my calling, that I really want to be able to help people. And in life, if you don't have the MVP process, if you do not have a mission, a vision and principles and a core set of principles, to me, you are lost as a hockey player. because my mission is to make sure I energize, just like you here. You want to energize people, you want to empower them.
Yep.
And then your vision is you want to have that best podcast, and you're almost up there right now. You're up there with the big boys right now, Sean.
Thank you.
So that's what you want to do. And then your principles are you bring people on the show that reflect what's happened in your life, and whether it's good or bad, it's all about us guys being good guys and helping, whether it's in the community at Malvern, whether it's the people that up in Minden, whether it's the people in Toronto. We're here. I'm here to service people. I want to make sure I service people and I do the right thing, because why? I got all this in my head, 38 years of coaching hockey, and now trained coach. I want to make sure I can share it, and I think the biggest impact I'm going to make on any kid right now is, in Zoom calls, talking to them, making sure I can basically talk them through that. And not only that, help educate the parents. Because one thing they didn't do back in the day, and they're not doing right now, is they are not educating parents.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Kerry. It's extremely important, especially in today's age. But just to lighten things up a little bit, I know we were talking about it before the recordings, but how about the handles of these guys of your mentors?
Yeah.
Like Brian Kane and Drake Davis. I mean,
they can be rock stars.
Exactly. Like the first time I heard the name, like before the recording, I mentioned, I said, like, is this a fancy one person with two middle names?
Yeah.
Just because I couldn't get over it. So.
Let me tell you something. You got to go on YouTube and look up Brian Kane. Okay, he's like you.
Brian Kane.
He's like you times 50. I think I watch him, the guy gives me the jitters when
Really?
The guy can go 100 miles an hour, and he's just unbelievable. Again, a former baseball player in college, decided to turn mental performance coach. He's worked with George St. Pierre. He's worked with David Price. He works with so many Major League Baseball players. He's getting into the NHL. He's setting up. The States is so much different than us, just so everyone knows. The States is so much, with their ADs and their high school programs. I mean, to me, I think that's the way Ontario should be going, is we should basically, we're always asking these kids to be student athletes, but we'll pull them out of school.
Yeah.
That's what we'll do. So isn't that a great thing? Or our own schools here in Canada can't even give our own kids scholarships half the time, so they're all leaving to go to the States. To me, we're missing the boat a bit.
I wonder when that will change. Like, I've always thought it was so bizarre, the difference between the American schools and the Canadian schools when it came to sports. It's always the goal of the kid is either to go to the OHL or go to Division I in the U.S. Right? But where's Canada on this? And like, the thing is that the OHL has these education packages, where for as many years as you play, they'll pay for any Canadian university that you get accepted to, tuition and books. I don't know how much it's changed. I'm talking about when I was there. So that was a little while ago.
I think it's still similar. I actually think the OHL's tried to do even a better job at providing education for their players.
Yeah, right on. So, I mean, I'm hoping that the Canadian universities kind of step up a little bit, kind of give there to be like an end game for these Canadian players, and then I think that'll make it better for everybody, to be honest with you.
Right. Well, I think one of the biggest hurdles that they have to get over is what they're asking. They're asking you when you're 16 years old and you're drafted in the first round if you want to leave home. I mean, that's a pretty big decision for a kid to make at that age, and I think that's a lot of responsibility to put on a kid.
Yes, absolutely.
So you look at it, when like, I want to ask you now a question.
Yes.
When do you feel you were at your best? Like, as a pro, when did you feel that you were at your best? Like, what age was that?
I would say my third year pro, which just happened to be the NHL lockout year. That was probably the year that I performed the best. I won Most Improved Player for the Rochester Americans. Yep. I won another AHL Man of the Year award. I felt content. I felt supported. Everything was even. There was a lot of components that made sense and that were working out for me.
Right. How old were you at that time?
I was 24 years old.
So you're 24 years old. Long time since you've been 16 years old. You're talking 8 years.
Yes.
So that's 8 years of development that a kid could have. So some of these kids are being rushed off to the OHL, and they're not ready for that. They're not ready for that. And everyone says, you know, it drives me crazy. Everyone says, oh, you know, it's about the kids. It's not about the kids. It's about how many butts you can put in those seats to sell tickets. It's a business. We all know it's a business.
Yes.
When are we going to actually start caring about the kids and getting them better educations, letting them play through? Like, why not, if you get drafted in the OHL and you play your first 2 years and you go drafted in the NHL, why can't then you go to school?
True.
Why
Yeah.
not? You
No,
want
I
to know
know.
why you can't? Because the American universities and the OHL can't get together and agree on it because
Yeah.
it's a USA fight in Canada.
Yeah.
Why does the US have a development program but we don't? And we're supposed to be the gurus of hockey,
We're supposed to be the hockey nation,
right?
right? Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
so
Gary.
I mean, it's a little bit disappointing about the system. I'm unsure if the system can ever be fixed, but I'm not going to try and fix the whole system. I'm just going to try and fix my little corner of it. So the kids I come in contact with, I'm going to try and be the best version of myself for them, and I want to make sure that I do all the right things for them.
You know what? Thank you for sharing that, buddy.
No problem.
I think it also deserves
Yeah.
a round of applause. Clap for each other around here. So, Kerry, I wanted to kind of switch it up a little bit. I mentioned in the beginning of the show that this is going to be a different type of show. It's going to be very informative, very emotional. So now, one of the biggest hurdles I think in our lifetime has been cancer.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
For many people, a lot of people have been affected through this, through their family, through their in-laws, however you want to call it. Now, I guess what I want to get at is, what were the tools that you used to get over the fear that cancer can bring? Like,
Right.
how did you battle them? Now, you mentioned your lovely wife, your
Yes,
lovely
yeah.
partner.
Yes.
Now, as an athlete, was there anything that you learned from here that helped you
Absolutely.
get through the cancer? Can you explain a little bit about that?
I think the biggest thing that anybody's going to learn in their life is, and this is what really pole vaults you, is first off, before you can improve at anything, you have to become self-aware.
Okay.
So self-awareness is huge. Also, you have to understand that there's some things in life that you can control,
Yes.
and then there's some things you can't control.
Can't control.
You know, and so when I was told that I had cancer, I really took a look at it. And was I afraid? Absolutely. I'd be like any human being would be, start worrying about, and I wasn't worried about me. I was worried about my son, my girlfriend's kids. Like, who was I going to leave behind, and did I do enough in my time? And that's one of the biggest things they ask you about in mental performance. And now this might be a little heavy for 10-year-olds, but for you older guys, like I'd ask, like Dayton and the older guys, if from when you die, they put on your gravestone, what do you want it to say? How do you want people to remember you? What's the mark that you're going to leave? Like, now everybody's going to know when you're gone, they're going to remember big things about you. They're going to remember Sean McMorrow, the sheriff. He was the sheriff, right? People are going to remember that. And so I think that's a big thing I started to think about. Was I making a big enough impact in my community? Mm-hmm. Was I making a big enough impact on social media? Going out there, telling people I had cancer, telling people right now, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm wearing a diaper. It's not a big deal. The alternative isn't good. So I'm okay with wearing a diaper. So you have to be okay with yourself and then tell people, go out and get your PSA checked. Make sure you go to your doctor, because guys are like, oh, I don't want to do it. No, you owe it to your wife. You owe it to your kids. You owe it to the rest of your family. Mm-hmm. And if you're a person that holds a lot of power in a community, you owe it to the community too.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you sharing all that
Oh.
stuff, Kerry, because it's, you know, it's important stuff. I find that these conversations trump, you know, how many assists a guy might have gotten in the 80s, right? So
Absolutely, they do.
So like I'm very happy that you're sharing this. So now, I wanted to kind of jump into. I mean, obviously, a couple weeks ago, I did a show with the
Adam
Ice
and them
Miners
guys.
owners, Adam Gray and Josh Bird. Had a really good time with them. Man, are they ever characters?
Yes.
I wanted you to talk about, how were you approached by these guys? Like, you're the head coach and general manager of the Center Hastings Ice Miners. How did that all start for Kerry Durant?
Well, Adam and I have been friends for years.
Okay,
and a lot
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, a lot of us guys played some hockey up in the Marmor era. We'd be those typical men's guys going to tournaments and playing. And he called me up one day and said, hey, would you be interested in coaching senior A hockey? And I'm like, where? And he goes, in Center Hastings. I go, there's a team there? Because there used to be a team there. You call it the Lakers.
How long ago? Like, was it a long time ago?
I think it was probably about maybe 10 years ago they were there. I could be wrong about that timeline, but it was there. And so I said, well, what does it entail? How many games are? And I said, who can play in this league? So I'm not kidding you. This is no exaggeration. Who can play in this league? And he goes, why? He goes, I said, because I got a guy. I got a guy. And he'll be the toughest guy in the league. And he's one of my former players. I said, so I'm calling. They said, no, you can't start calling guys yet because of league rules, right? I'm like, okay, well, as soon as I can call him, I'm calling Sean. And they're like, the sheriff? Doesn't that guy have a podcast? I said, yeah. So I said, he's the first guy I'm calling. So that's a phone call I made to you to come back and play. I thought it would be, obviously, because we have such a great relationship. We've always had a great relationship. But I just think, you know what? I think that area is starving for a good hockey team that wants to come out, very community-oriented. We're going to have a great team. We're going to put on a great performance for people. And, I think a lot of people think, Senior A hockey, is it going to be like 9 brawls? Absolutely not. We don't want that. But I will say this, and I will say this right on your podcast, that Center Hastings Ice Miners won't get pushed around.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, the dressing room that I see forming right now, I mean, we got a team group chat. The boys are very active on it.
Yes.
There's certain guys that, man, they must really look forward every day to this group chat because they're all into it. And I appreciate that because it's cool to see. One of the things that I miss about being on a team is that camaraderie.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just knowing that you have 20 buddies that will go to bat for you and that you can show up to the rink and maybe not be having a good day, but now your day's okay because you have 20 soldiers that have your back. So
absolutely,
that's probably the thing in life that I miss the most about my old hockey career, right? Is just that camaraderie. So we have that with this team. Now, the opportunity that I find that we have is we have a lot of professional guys. Not saying that they play professional hockey, but they act professional.
Right.
You act professional. Adam acts professional. Josh does. I try to act professional. Now, we have an arena, I think Adam said, it seats about 600 people.
Yeah, if you stuff them in real good there, you'll get 600 people in there. And they'll be right on top of you, too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've already made a commitment that I'm going to be making myself available before and after the games for fans. That's just the way that I am. It's kind of the package that I bring. The other guys may not want to do it before the games, but they'll be doing it after the games. But I really think that, Kerry, we have this opportunity to have something so special.
Absolutely, to make a huge impact in that community.
Exactly. So, like, I know that we've got involved with all these different businesses and in the community. I wish I kind of read about it more. I was just so impressed with that. I saw kind of like a business card type style post that you actually had posted.
Yeah, that's kind of our going to be our mantra for sure.
Okay, so like that's our mission statement, what we're trying to follow as a team. Very impressive, man. I'm really looking forward to this season. I wanted people to know, let's give them a little bit of information about like the location and whatnot. So let's talk the bigger towns right now. We got Belleville and Trenton.
Yes.
Now we're north
about 40 minutes north.
40 minutes north of Trenton?
Or Belleville, because they're only 18 kilometers apart.
Okay. And the name of our arena, do you know the name of the rink?
It's the Marmora Arena.
The Marmora Arena.
Yeah, which is an awesome rink.
Okay.
Johnny there who runs the rink does a great job. Johnny Crocker. I mean, how many guys know the guy at the rink anymore? You know what I mean? Usually you never know.
Point.
You never know. Like you walk into Canada and Ice Sports and they got like 75 people working there. Yeah. It's where what's going to be great about this is the personal relationships we have with people in the town.
Yes.
I think it's great that you want to come out before and after. I think all the players should want to do that. I mean, first off, Adam and Jason Lesage and the guys and Josh Burley, they've done so much hard work to get us to this point. They're really pouring their heart and souls into this team, and they want it to be good.
Yeah.
And I invited one of my real good friends, Stevie Coombs, to come coach with us.
Yes.
He played with us on our men's team, so I want to make it more like a family gathering. It's Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock is potentially our home games.
Yep.
And I think it'll be a great place to come.
Great time.
You know what I mean? And then we can go out after our games and we can support the local community, support the bars, support the other people. It's there. It's just, this is fun. I want to make it real fun for everybody. Like, I want you guys to come back and play because I want you guys to feel like, listen, we all know we're all getting older, but when you put on skates and you get to play a game, you're a kid. You're a kid again. You're a kid again. And you know, the funny thing is, my friend Darren's here. Pricey reffed in the OHL, and you know, this is one thing I missed as a coach. See, I thought it was only us coaches and us players that had camaraderie. I thought all the refs went in the room and they just stared at each other and they didn't like each other, right? And then they said, we're just going to go out and, okay, we'll make sure we do our jobs. And they got undressed and they left. And one thing I learned about officials and why I so appreciate officials so much now, because God knows I might hold the record for being thrown out of hockey games and being suspended. But I just appreciate that it is such a hard job to be an official. And the guys really try hard to create those relationships with coaches and players. And if you're a young coach and you're out there, remember those guys are out there and they love hockey as much as we do. That's just the path that's taken them, and they really want to be a part of the game too. And believe it or not, Darren and I go back like over 20 years now. So even there are actually even some officials that like me.
Okay, right on.
Which is unbelievable.
Now, Kerry, let me add to this. Now, recently I have become a ref as well. Okay, I ref Tuesday nights men's league at the Bill Bolton Arena at Bathurst and DuPont. Okay, I'm into about week number 11 now. Okay, I'm the ref that's been scheduled the most, probably about 3 out of 4 weeks on average for a month. I absolutely love it. Okay, and I'll tell you one thing, men, do I ever feel bad giving the refs the heck that I gave them?
Yeah.
It wouldn't even matter if I thought it was offside or not. Every single time the opposing team was coming over, offside! Come on, ref! Jeez! You know what I mean? And I'm hearing this from some of the guys. Come on, ref, call it! And I'm just like, yeah. You know what I mean? So, like, I know not to get too upset because I used to be that guy.
Yeah.
I also know.
Actually, it was a little bit worse for you near the end of your career in the OHL. At least as a coach, as a coach, at least I got to walk to the bench and actually maybe coach a period.
Yeah.
I remember one day I went to watch you play, and the very first shift you went to step on the ice, and the ref came over and said, "Yeah, just go to the box." Yeah. Like you didn't even make it on the ice.
10-minute misconduct for looking at the other team. No, I hear you. Yeah, that third year for me in the OHL. It's kind of like when you're in grade 8 or when you're in grade 12, you're right at the end, you're ready to go to the next level. You might be a little bit too big for this group now or whatever. And I just remember the reputation that I had didn't always work to my favor.
Right.
Because the refs were all over me.
Yeah.
It didn't really help that Lindsay Hofford, being the head coach of the London Knights at the time when I was there, it didn't really help that Lindsay would say, you know what? That guy's messing around with us. Sean, go kill that guy right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would do it. And you know, that's the way that it used to be. Hockey's changed a little bit. It's more about team toughness now.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I really like about our team with the Ice Miners.
Yeah.
Is that we have a balanced, tough team. We don't have to just rely on one person. And man, that's the advantages of being part of a great group.
Yeah, and you know it's funny you talk about that, and now I'm gonna be the guy who interviews a little bit.
Okay.
How did you feel going through that process, knowing that, you know, because you and I had a conversation when you were 13. I asked you, I said, Sean, what's your major goal? And you said to me,
remember too.
Coach, I want to play in the NHL. And I said, well, Sean, you know, in this climate, this day and age, you know, you're a big guy. You're fairly skilled, but I'm going to tell you, there's one thing that you have that a lot of guys don't have, and you're not afraid to go out there and you know, mix it up with guys. And so that kind of became your thing. You played a little bit of forward, a little bit D, but then you found yourself in a role where you were the guy that was getting the tap on the shoulder and saying, "Hey, get out there." And so tell me, how do you prepare mentally just for that, knowing, because a lot of guys know they don't have to fight.
Yeah.
Like Connor McDavid ain't fighting anybody, and evidently Austin Matthews isn't fighting anybody either because the guy never drops his gloves. I think his stick's glued to his hands. But
I'm not sure if he could punch himself. What do they say, out of a wet paper bag?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Austin, great player. We're not chirping.
No,
you,
no,
buddy.
no, he's awesome.
I know Austin watches this show, so we're not chirping you, buddy.
He doesn't need to fight. He can score a billion goals, right?
Exactly.
So
Well,
how'd you feel about that?
Well, okay, so for me, and I've been asked that a few times. With me, what it is it's kind of all goes back to the whole sheriff character. So I think of myself as a unique player that represents my team, my city, and my fans.
Right.
I try to do it at a better rate than anyone in hockey. Now, how much pride is that for me? An extreme amount. If I have all these supporters, all these people that want to meet and greet, take pictures before, after the game, these people are here to support me and my team. I have everybody behind me. That's how I'm able to do it.
Right.
And that's why I'm so personable with all the fans, team officials, people in the front office. I learned more out of doing volunteer stuff throughout my career, where I realized that volunteer in the dictionary should probably be changed to the word opportunity.
Right.
Because that's all it was for me.
Right.
And the fact that all these people I just mentioned were a part of my journey, I felt so much more stronger. And all I had to do was put this little punk down, and the mission was accomplished.
Right.
And I'm representing everyone in the stands. I'm representing everybody watching, streaming. And that's where I got my power from.
Right. You know, and I'll tell you, so how many actual games did you play in the NHL?
So
like regular season games?
Okay, so I played about 12 preseason games over the 4 years that I was under contract with Buffalo. I got called up my first year.
Right.
Only played the one regular season game, but pretty good storyline. Canadian kid from Scarborough, where a Saturday night is. I'd walk over to my grandparents' house, watch Hockey Night in Canada, Toronto Maple Leafs against whoever they were playing. Hot chocolate, Raisin Bran toast, enjoy with my grandpa and my great uncle Frank. And then that just happened to be the game that I played. Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada, Buffalo versus Toronto.
I want to make a point out of that.
Yes.
And I just want to tell you that you're going to have to rephrase that from now on. Because you can't say that you only played one game. I'm going to get a bit emotional here.
Yeah.
You did something that every kid in this country wants to do. Yeah. You came from Scarborough, and at the time, remember what everyone thought of Scarborough.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It wasn't very highly thought of.
The hood.
Right? And basically, you made it, and your mother, as far as I'm concerned, besides maybe me throwing in there once in a while, your mother was an unbelievable rock for you. If it wasn't for your mother, I don't think either of us would be standing here, to tell you the truth. We probably would have got ourselves in trouble a long time ago.
Yes.
But I just think the fact is that you made it there, and I think that's something that's huge, because all these kids out here today, they just want to play in the NHL.
Yeah.
That's all they want to do.
Yeah.
And to me, if I got a chance to step on for one game, that's one game farther than half the planet's going to get. So kudos, and that's hats off to you, because I think that is.
I appreciate that.
That's a big deal.
Thank you very, very much.
Now, I want to ask you this too. Did anybody ever get mad at you while you were fighting them because you were laughing at them? Because half time when you were fighting, you were laughing at guys, and I'm pretty sure that.
Well, I mean, what it is it's funny, because I have two younger brothers that are doing pretty cool things. One of them just got signed to AEW Professional Wrestling. He's been sending us videos and pictures of his training. There's a face that family members of ours make when we're in that intense moment.
Right.
And for me, it'd be like, right? It looks like I'm laughing, but I'm not. I'm just making this face. And Liam does it, Patrick does it, Catherine does it, my mom does it.
And just so everybody knows,
everybody does it.
Liam's the shortest one in the family at 7'2".
Oh, yeah.
Like 7'2", that's absolutely insane.
If you want to see someone that makes me small, just scroll back a couple episodes. Liam McMorrow, we were talking about before the show that his head's about here. And yeah, he made me look like I was about 5'1", $120.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sorry.
No, just in saying all this, like, I love the fact, and I appreciate the fact that you gave me the platform to come here, especially to speak about the mental performance and
It's very important.
how important this is going to be in not only now but in the very near future and to carry on. Eventually, you know, I'm still fortunate enough to work at the OPP up in Minden, but I'm hoping that this becomes a career for me after I retire from there.
Yes.
And this is such a great opportunity for not only myself, but a whole bunch of people to come on here and use it for positive vibes. And then talking about the Center Hastings Ice Miners, how we're going to try and build a hockey team up there. This will be my first experience at coaching men. It'll be the oldest guys I ever
Really?
coached.
Okay, yeah, I guess
yeah.
that's
I mean,
right,
well,
eh?
Junior A, you're gone by the time you're 21, so that's not bad. But I so appreciate the opportunity to come here and to introduce you to some of my friends, because
Yes,
I
absolutely.
really want you to have.
I'm very excited that I met them.
Listen, I'm jacked. I can't wait till you interview this kid, Dayton Price. I mean,
I'm really looking forward
I
to
don't
it.
want to tell his story,
Yeah.
but I'm just tell you a little bit, an incredible story. Some of you might have heard about it, you know, in the media. Darren's son, who is on a full scholarship in the U.S. golfing, bad accident happens, and his coach and some teammates perish. Dayton has fought his way back to try and become, and I think he's going to become a professional golfer. And it is just a story that I think people need to hear, because I tell you the
Absolutely.
truth, I'm a lot older than Dayton, probably by about 100 years, and the kid inspires me. He inspires me, and I think he's going to inspire a lot of people when he comes on here. And I think you've been talking to a friend of mine too, Teresa Bailey.
Yes.
And she's going to inspire you too, coming
Wow.
on this show. She is a phenomenal lady who knows way more than any other hockey mom that I've ever known. She's got her book out. She's done an incredible job. She actually lives in Center Hastings. She lives
Really?
in Madoc. So
Okay.
I said
no,
that.
No, is this the photographer?
No, she's a lady that she's on TikTok, and she does.
Oh, the influencer. Okay.
Yes. So actually, she came years back with some of my teams and brought this Lego stuff and did team building with my kids. My kids went through the roof. They absolutely loved it. But she's a really smart gal, and her book's great. It's because not very many people she actually talked about hockey moms and how they actually have coped with going through the process of going through minor hockey. And wouldn't an unbelievable interview to talk to Sheila McMorrow about her process of having 4 kids, 3 of them playing hockey,
Absolutely.
them all being Giants, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That might be the closing.
But we don't.
show.
Hey, listen, we don't want to forget about your sister, because your
Yeah,
sister's
yeah.
pretty successful too.
Yeah,
right?
Catherine's amazing. She's the oldest. She's the one that held us all accountable. Trust me, beat me up several times. So now, Carey, as we wrap up here, people are always looking for an advantage. People want to put the work in. How do they get a hold of you for this, brother? I know a lot of people, like I'm already seeing the comments and stuff on the show. A lot of people are very interested in this, and a lot of people really want to get one up, and they want to be the best version of themselves.
Right.
That's the
And so
line,
you want
right?
an advantage? How about this? Adversity is your advantage. We are going to face adversity every day in our lives, and we have to learn how to control our emotions. And you have to be a part of a culture, right? Like I said, culture is a belief that drives behaviors that produces results. And so when you learn that and you learn to control, you can't be in control of your performance until you learn how to control yourself. And that's one thing. And that's one thing I've learned from Brian Kane. That's one thing I've learned. It's funny because you go back, and what I would have liked to done for most coaches, especially myself, and I think Darren would agree on this, officiating some of my games, that, you know what, most coaches actually should film themselves and watch themselves on the bench and watch how they act and how they yell at kids and they yell at refs and that. I bet you most of them would be embarrassed about the conduct, and then they'd be able to reel themselves in. And that's an exercise you do. So if people do want to get in touch with me, my phone number is 437-361-7825 or elitementalperformance99@gmail.com. I mean, just with a conversation, you know what?
Can you say the email one more time?
Absolutely. elitementalperformance99@gmail.com. I think it's, listen, I just want to help people. I want to help people understand themselves better, be able to cope. And because listen, I'm telling you, a lot of kids are quitting hockey. The GTHL is down in enrollment, which I know they're probably not overly excited about. They'd like to be up. I'm pretty sure the OMHA is down in enrollment. After the pandemic, we went through this hard thing. And now I think the mental performance side of it is huge. is absolutely huge. And you can go online and you look up Brian Kane. He's got so many great videos. I think that all coaches should be summoned to take his course.
Yes.
I think it's hugely
mandatory.
important. Well, it's crazy. It's just like we have hockey trainers, right?
Yeah.
So we have hockey trainers. They're the only guy in the bench that's certified in first aid or CPR. Why isn't all the coaches? Who's saying that guy is going to show up to every practice?
True.
He's not going to. And you know what I like about you? This Brian Kane. This is him. You got to bring the juice. You definitely bring the juice.
Hey,
right?
I'm looking forward to hopefully one day speaking to this gentleman, because he seems to be pretty high energy.
Man.
Yeah, I can't wait.
His
to meet
statement
this guy.
is, if you're juiceful, you're useful. If you're juiceless, you're useless.
Whoa.
That's his big thing. He has got some great things, and he loves to talk about well, better, how. Well, better, how. Eh?
Yeah.
You know, how well are we doing it? You know, can we do it better? And how are we going to do it better? He has got so many great, remember, these are tools. Through the 10 pillars of mental performance, he wants to weaponize people to be able to cope with what's going on and be able to, what we call is our E plus R equals O. Our event plus response equals an outcome. So before anything happens, everything's an event in your life. Just so you know, you see everything twice in your life.
Yes.
First, you see it in your mind, and then you see it in reality.
Manifest.
Yes.
Okay.
So, event, it's going to happen, okay? You know, then obviously your response is my response. Good. And what's the outcome? And talking about we're here at the bottom line.
Yeah.
I just want to know, and I want to tell everybody, you and I, we live above the line.
There you go, buddy.
Right?
That's it. That's it.
That's our motto. We live above the line, even though we love the bottom line.
Yeah, we do love the bottom line.
Yeah.
So, Kerry, I'm so glad that you're doing this. Mental Performance Mastery Coaches Certified. I love it. I don't think there's a better person that would be able to do it than you. And I'm really looking forward to you coaching me on some of this stuff, buddy.
Well, some of this stuff's going to be with our team this year. And
okay.
You know, the great thing about it is I think there's a lot of great people out there that do this. And what I think a lot of people don't realize, and why it's so awesome to sit down with you or sit down with my buddy Pricey, who's been an OHL ref, or any other coaches, I think there's a lot of hidden secrets in people's successes. And that's why I like to be able to be with people, to ask them those questions, because I want to know what you got for me. Yes. Listen, when I go into a room, I definitely don't want to be the smartest guy. I want to take everything from everybody in the room, and I want to take it home. And I write more and read more now than I've ever have in my life. And I think it's just awesome. A lot of information out there that you can go on the internet with. Picking up a book. I read Relentless, a book about, you know, Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan.
Yes.
Like some of those stories that I've read are unbelievable. And you know, it's funny because I was going to talk to you about this just a little bit, about how you go out and you see different people. I want people to know that I get it. You understand, like, you're not just a motivational speaker. To me, you're somebody that's trying to build a platform. Because motivational speakers come in and out, and you might not, like if we were on a hockey club and I brought 5 guys in to talk to you, you might not remember all 5 guys.
Yep.
So for me, I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm somebody that's going to bring a system to you. This is a system. This is a system that genuinely works. But if you don't believe in the process, and you can't be interested, you got to be intentional. You got to be all, like, it's all in or nothing.
Absolutely. Kerry, honestly, once we start the season and we start learning some of this, I would like to bring you back so we can tell the people how we're benefiting from it. And I want to thank you, man, for coming on the show today.
Okay.
I've learned so much today. I know the listeners and viewers have as well. And, man, it was great having you, man.
Thank you so much. Appreciate everything.
I want to thank the listeners for tuning in to another episode of The Sheriff. We'll see you next time, guys. Woo!
It's The Sheriff Podcast, baby.